Go live. Yeah, we are live. We are live. Sorry to cut you off, Cyril. We were just
No
talking
worry.
to everybody about the state of everyone's vaccination program and their vaccination certificate, which is a burning topic at the moment. Gail's had two, so she's ahead of everyone. I think we should be taking stakes on this, actually. Gail is ahead in the race at the moment, way out in the lead by the sound of it. So I'm going to mute everybody. As people dial in, now we've got the whole community with us today. I see Ego's just dialed in. I was speaking to Sonia, Mark's in, Carl, John. I was speaking to Jamie, Ivier, Gail, Suzanne, Mandy's there, Jane's there. There's so many people dialing in. I can't see them all on the screen now, so apologies if you haven't been mentioned. But great and welcome to the today John Lavenia Success Mastermind general session for our wonderful mastermind group. And I'm really hoping everyone's well and feeling supported and feeling part of the group, because I think it's become a very important part of our days. Housekeeping, got to mention this as always, two more talks coming up today. EVA, of course, later with the wonderful Corporate Curios session. That is 5 p.m. Eastern Time US, which is 10 p.m. in the UK. We then have Wayne giving his wonderful talks on metaphors for success, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which unfortunately is 2 a.m. UK time, which won't deter EVA, but may deter others. Anyway, I can see EVA smiling away, but it's lovely that she joins all these calls. She's like the bedrock of the whole group, I think. Anyway, health warning for the talk today. I might become strident at various points, I have to warn you. There might be a few quotes thrown in. I'll warn you about that as well. And there might be some calls to action. So forgive me in advance. John's just joined us. Lovely to see John. So he's keeping a close eye on me at the ship controls to make sure I don't plow it straight into the jetty. Anyway, I wanted to talk about how we live now, really, which is the title of quite a famous novel, but how we live now, and about the pressure that's really imposed on us by society, by other people, and actually by just sheer perception of those things by us, so our own perception. And that leads me on then to talk a bit later on about giving ourselves permission to succeed, as I'll call it. In other words, freeing ourselves up and giving ourselves permission to do something because of all this weight of society and perception and everything I'm going to talk about. And this is all linked up to the power of perception and actually the hold that it has on us, which we sometimes don't realize. It creeps up on us over years, baked into us early on at schools and in homes. And it really does have a hold on us, this power of perception. So our perception of what we believe the perception and expectation of others to be is a strong force, and it can actually shape and drive our entire life, unfortunately. And first question really is, how many of us are on autopilot and just doing the right thing because we feel we've got to do the right thing? This pressure weighing on our shoulders that we've been dressed in, forcing us to think, hang on, are we doing the right thing? And staying in the rut, staying on the road, in the center of the road. And we try and live up to or follow the expectations and perceptions that we believe others have of and for us. I mean, how many of us actually do that? I think most of us, at least once in our lives, and possibly some of us regularly in our lives, we're attempting to meet society's perceived goals for us, perhaps rather than our own goals for ourselves. And then going on from that, how many of us are weighed down or daunted by the success of a parent or sibling? Apologies for any noise, by the way. I think the builders have decided to take apart the condominium block today. They've chosen just the right time to do it, so hopefully you can hear me. So how many of us are actually weighed down or daunted, for example, by the success of siblings or our own parents, and by our belief that we're just expected to emulate that success no matter what, or that we have to please our parents and our siblings, and that's in our mind as a very strong driving force, or just to make people proud, family proud, or maybe just not to upset them. Don't do the wrong thing, in other words. Just don't upset people. Don't do the wrong thing. Do the right thing. Those sort of mindsets can be passed down to us even unconsciously, just through the momentum of our upbringing and what happened to us. certainly schools in some countries, and maybe still today, are fairly formal, and they give us a fairly formulaic set of ideas sometimes that we then carry unquestioningly for years. So how many of us, for example, feel that our school or college year group performed very well and that we have to emulate what they did rather than the thing that brings us joy and fulfillment? We just don't even question it. We just think they've done well, they're successful. What about me? Why haven't I done that? Look at what they've done. And then how many of us are just trying to meet our parents' expectations for success and what their generation believes success looked like? Working in a bank for life and getting the gold watch, working in a job for 35 years and getting the gold watch. The world has changed, but what do we believe success is now? And what did they think success was? And are we trying to meet some outmoded ideas which really don't reflect much anymore and certainly don't suit us? And how many of us have actually been criticized for not having followed in the footsteps of these other people? Have we actually been criticized for not doing that? So worse than us just perceiving this, sometimes it's positive criticism. Look what someone's done. Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you been as successful as they've been? People do say these things to us, and that can really hurt and really damage our track and our course and muddy the waters. And, I suspect the answer to all of those three questions is that many of us have lived with this baggage, this perception generated pressure, whether it's been self-imposed or imposed by others or our own families. I think many of us have suffered from it. And, some of us may just have felt we had very successful parents or relatives, and crumbs, we better do the same. My father was very successful. Wow, that, I must at least do what he did. Otherwise I'm a failure. Do we think like that? I think we certainly sometimes can fall into that. And some people can end up being pressured in that way, invisibly or very consciously and directly. And then on top of all of that, what about society? The way we live now, as I mentioned at the beginning, the way we're expected to live now and the way we're expected to look now. Have you ever stopped yourself and thought, I can't wear that. What would people think of me? I can't have that haircut or that hairstyle. What would they think? Or maybe just, I can't take part in that activity. I'd love to do it, but how would it be seen? How would I be seen if I do that? What perceptions will arise from that? I better not do it. Or more directly now, and some of us have definitely experienced this, what are you bothering with Amazon and e-commerce for? That's not what people like us do. People like us. Take note, that is the phrase, I'll touch on it again and again today. There is a people like us group herd expectation of how we'll behave because we're in that group. But it's people like us that unfortunately limit us ourselves and keep us being people like us. No change will occur. They take away, and that takes away possibilities and futures and different directions. It keeps us in a box of our own making. That's the danger. So do we want to be these people like us just to fit in? Or do we want to fulfill our destiny and actually live our dream and create a legacy of our own for people to look at? And as John would say, do we want to make a spectacle of ourselves or not? What are we in this for? What are we doing? Just think of all those inventors and the great campaigners against discrimination in the past that we've all heard about and studied. Look at their example. They definitely weren't people like us. And we're standing on their shoulders right now because they dared to be different. They weren't just let's fit in kind of people. Will our grandchildren and our children stand on the shoulders of those people that I described as people like us, staying the same, on the shoulders of our family, our community as it has been? Or will they stand, I'm just going to mute here, will they stand on the shoulders of us, of someone that dared to stand out, to change direction, to pursue a goal, and to make a change, to fulfill our burning and meaningful desire or our worthy ideal, our passions, our beliefs? Whose shoulders are they going to be standing on? Whose shoulders do we want them to be standing on? The people like us in stasis, staying the same, or people that dare to change things and dare to have a go? And remember, that reminds me, remember the compass. The great thing about a compass is that it shows us where we were planning to go, but it can also show us where we'd like to go. It can do two things, the compass, and we can change view of that compass anytime we want to and look at it in a different way and use it a different way. And that thought struck me very strongly last night. Anyway, to follow on from those questions really, and that I've posed to you, the sad thing really is that we often spend so much time worrying about what other people think and expect us to do that we just don't leave any room for our own wishes and dreams. And these wishes and dreams are the real us, the real you. And yet, why do we put them second? Behind the wishes of society, our family, perception, this weight of perception and expectation. Why do we do it? We just become one of the crowd trying to succeed, but not too much. We don't want to succeed too much because we might stand out. Gosh, I don't really dare. I don't want to be in the center of attention, put myself out there. Just in case we're seen to be out of line a little, or just too successful or too boastful. Some countries, again, worse for that than others. We can allow all of these perceived pressures to become so great that we just end up living as a shadow of ourselves and not as we should live to suit us, how we really are and how we're built and how we're made up and our whole thought process that's built inside of us. And actually, more importantly, so we can get on and pursue those dreams. And I do think often talking to people, and not just in this group, but many people outside the group, many of us are still possibly living with these so-called self-limiting beliefs in what I've described to myself as perception's pressure cooker. You put the lid on, the pressure builds, and you want to stay conform, meet the stereotypes. These feelings, these identities, these stereotypes, these perceptions are strong, and they've marred many lives. I'm convinced of that. And they're going to mar and define our lives if we let them do that. So why would we let that happen? Anyway, another thought on the same theme is that the reverse side of the same coin is that many of us are also less likely to have a go and try something if we just don't identify with the people doing the activity that we perhaps hanker towards trying. If we don't identify them, we find it difficult to make the leap and have a go. And that is another form of self-limiting belief. How many of us didn't try something because we looked at the people doing it and said, well, they just don't look like me. They're on a different level to me. The people I know are just not like that. They come from a different background. Maybe I'm not good enough for that. But, that is to limit ourselves again before we've even started. And it's an unconscious bias towards saying, no, I'm not going there because of all those things. And rather than dream or plan and execute by waiting for a role model just like us that we can identify with, we crush our potential plans into a ball and we throw them into life's waste paper basket, the trash can, and we give up because we can't identify with the people doing it, or we've been crushed by perception pressure in this pressure cooker. But it struck me again thinking about this today that, would any of the pioneers that we know of have tried anything on that basis in a new field? They wouldn't. And what if Einstein had said, hey, people that work in admin in the patents office don't pursue scientific careers? And what if Edison had said, telegraph boys do not become world-famous inventors with their own company? And then Henry Ford, what if he'd said, machinists, apprentices, and farmers' sons don't revolutionize industry? None of those great things that they did might have happened. And there are so many more of these what ifs. So I think the lesson from that is just dare to believe. Please dare to believe, and don't be pressured by perception. Don't take that pressure and let it inhabit you and take you over. And as a corollary to that, don't look for role models you can identify with. Look for your dreams that you identify with, and then become the role model for other people. Become that pioneer, become that groundbreaker, become that disruptor. That's what those great inventors and other people and scientists did. They dared to try, and then they became the role model and inspirations for generations to follow. Anyway, there's great news. And the great news is that it's our life, it's our success, it's designed our way if we want it to be. But that's the case only if we can reconcile ourselves to this whole idea that it is our life, the life that we were given. It was given to us. And we get to choose what to do with it, not our family, not our peer group, not our community, not society. And there's even better news that by being in a group like this and in this group and by engaging in these new ventures and e-commerce, we're already different. We're already beginning to break free and we're already expressing ourselves. So let's congratulate ourselves for that today. There's nothing wrong with success, at all. And there's nothing wrong with being perceived to have success, as long as we appreciate it, of course, and use it well and carry it well, and we use it modestly and for the greater good of all when we can, as well as the good of ourselves. I just started then thinking, well, what can we do? What practical steps can we actually take? Well, firstly, perhaps we can actually look in the mirror, and I referred to this in a previous talk, and say to ourselves, look, do I see someone who could learn a little more about e-commerce every day, import, export, and get on and progress and deploy that knowledge and have a better business and a successful business? And then again, how much did I actually know about all this 8 to 9 months ago? Well, if I know what I know now in 8 to 9 months, wow, I can do this again. Can I do it again? You certainly can. And I'm absolutely confident you can. Listening to all of you becoming increasingly knowledgeable, we can look in that mirror and say, yes, I do see someone that could learn a little bit more about this every day. And heaven knows where I'll be at the end of the year if I carry on doing that. And then secondly, I think we can actually change the way we look at things and the way we react to them. And in particular, we can avoid looking through those old pairs of glasses that other people have given us. And Henry David Thoreau said about this, it is not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Yes, absolutely. I absolutely love that quote. It's a real blockbuster. It just sums it all up in a nutshell. And I do love quotes, and you know that I do, but it is not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Change your perception. We can all look all day at the same issues and at society and see the same thing again and again and again. And that is going to yield the same results again and again and again. We have to make change. We have to change the way we look so we can see differently and we can react differently to what we see. That is essential. Henry David Thoreau again, and we're going to have a bit of a deluge of Henry David Thoreau today, I'm afraid, but he said some great things about perception. He said, there is no value in life except what you choose to place upon it, and no happiness in any place except what you bring to it yourself. We are in control of this. We can bring whatever value we like. We can place whatever value we like on things we perceive. We can filter and choose what is important. And we can bring success and happiness to any place if we choose to do it ourselves. So the things that matter, according to the weight we give them, is what matters. We have to weight things. We have to choose to place more value on weight, on the things that matter, rather than on just what is perceived to be right. We've got to question why we're putting weight on certain things and the impact that's having on us. So why put society's views and family views ahead of our own objectives and dreams? If we do that, we're just not going to achieve them. Let's imagine going out for a swim, but with a heavy anchor tied onto our neck. What do we think is going to happen? We ain't going to float too well. We're not going to make it to the other side of the pool or the other side of the lake. So let's change our game and just throw away the dice and the board and make our own board. We can do that right now, any day. Any day that any of you choose to do that, you can redesign the game board. You can change the ladders, you can change the snakes, you can change the dice, you can change the system. And it can be done. People do it all the time. Disruptors do it all the time. Henry Ford quote again that we have to bring into pretty much every talk, and Virginia mentioned it again last week, I think. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. How do you want to see things, and how do you want to see your success and the action you can take? I think you all can. I really do. If you start to perceive things that way, then you can do it. It's all about changing your perception filter and adjusting it. And then remember again, another great quote, the difference between a mountain and a molehill is your perspective, your perception. And Al Neuharth said that. And just think about it. You can react differently to what you see, what you look at, what you perceive, and also what you believe others perceive about you or what you should do and expect of you. That can be changed. Thirdly, consider what it would do for future generations of us, of all of us, if we act courageously right now and do something different, what impact could we have if we broke the mold now? Can that inspire us to dive in and have a go on its own? Is that enough of a drive for us? I'm talking to brave entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, young people every day outside of this group as well as in it. And many people are now inspiring themselves post-COVID to have a go, to reach out for their own piece of the pie, or just to live more in line with how they feel. So we're not alone in this. A lot of people have reconsidered their life as a result of what's just happened to us all. And can I challenge you all, please, to consider the impact you could actually have if you make those changes now. And if you decided more to live according to your own perceptions and your own wishes rather than other people's, chuck off that anchor, throw it off and dump it in the sea. It's not going to weigh you down anymore if you choose to throw it away. Perhaps as a result of that, we could just invest more of our money and resources in us, invest in ourselves for the long term, budget for success, budget for lifelong learning, preserve funds for investment in our businesses and for its growth, invest to get ahead. We can do all of those things. We can chuck away that anchor and just get on with it. Then fourthly, Henry Ford quote mentioned again, I think, which I've just mentioned again, is this: you just got to keep saying it. It's whether you can or whether you can't. You're going to be right. So if you decide you can, you're right, you can. And I think you really can. So start to perceive, and then sheer practice, a positive mindset, and underpinned with that have a go attitude can certainly deliver a different outcome for all of us. Instead of just crushing that potential plan into that ball and throwing it into the trash can that I mentioned, life's waste paper basket, we can do something with it. So let's just throw away and crush the perceptions instead and chuck those into the waste paper basket, trash can, get rid of those. And I know that if we dig deep, and it is a challenge sometimes, we can do it. We can do it. And then fifthly, we could also just look in different places, as well as looking in a different way at the things we're looking at. John Lubbock said, what we see depends mainly on what we look for. Again, these are just brilliant, pithy, short quotes that hit you between the eyes. You know, are we looking at and for the right things? Let's test ourselves on that every day. Can we look for something different in life? Something not subject to our existing limiting beliefs and our past histories and all those perceptions of what's possible and what's allowed, what we're allowed to do? Maybe we can just change our approach and look in different places, look at different things. At that point, I've probably rambled on for long enough, and I wanted to close up and open the floor in a few minutes for your thoughts, because I really want to hear how all these things have perhaps affected you, and more importantly, what you've done about them, so we can help other people with your suggestions. So in closing, really, you know, are we weighed down or blocked in our endeavors by perceptions of other people, of society, of ourselves? What can we actually do about that? Can we build our knowledge? Can we change what we see? Can we change how we see it? Can we break that mold and give those future generations different shoulders to stand on? Can we just build a more have-a-go attitude? Will that alone get us forward? Can we look for something different in different places? Can we just change the arena, the battlefield? And at that point, leaving you with Henry David Thoreau yet again in the Thoreau barrage. Things do not change. We change, he said. So true again. How true is that? We change because things carry on across centuries, millennia, and generations. And as the French say, plus ça change, the more things change, the more it's the same. Things around us ain't going to be that much different. It's up to us to change ourselves. And then what happens around you will carry on with or without you. But you can be a different part of that story. If we want to break free, it's going to take positive and affirmative action on our part personally. We need to take that seat on that bus and just refuse to move, no matter what the prejudice, the perception, or the weight of perception that's stacked against us. So many people have sat in that seat over so many centuries and had to take those brave decisions. And we can all be one of them. We can all be one of them. So thank you so much for listening. Hope I didn't rant and rave too much, but I did warn you at the beginning. I'd love to take questions. I can see a few hands up already. First person up is Stefan, which is great because I know he always has great insights into these things. Stefan.
Hey, thanks for that was actually really good, really relevant because just on a personal note, I struggle with this all the time. I compare myself to my sisters, especially because when they got out of school, they went directly into, or I mean, they got out of high school, went directly into studying what they knew they wanted to do, and it was what they wanted, and they still do, and are very, very successful in their respective fields. And when I went to school, it was literally the year that my dad had passed away. It was the school where he taught. It was what I thought I wanted to do, and then I changed my mind, but listened to everybody who suggested, staying for a scholarship because I didn't want to disappoint, and then changed career. So it's been a lot more of a struggle to get to where I am, right, than it has been to my sisters. Yet I constantly compare myself to them, or think that they're comparing me to them, even when sometimes they're not. So last year it ended up culminating in me getting into a pretty big argument with one of them, and we ended up working it out, thankfully. But it's definitely something you got to pay attention to because it can literally control your mood and everything you do because you're comparing yourself to what are these people going to think? What am I going to do? How am I going to make that person proud of me? Or, whatever the case may be. It's just that you're constantly comparing yourself and constantly finding yourself wanting when you do that. And as a result, over the years, your willingness to be as brave gets wounded a little bit, and that's basically where I'm trying to recover from right now. That's just tired of it. So yeah, it's very relevant. Thank you.
Stefan, that's great. And I love that compare word. I think that's just perfect word for this. But Stefan, you can definitely do this, but you've got to write a plan for yourself. Question the plans that maybe you've got and say, where did they come from? Are they mine? Or are they handed down to me by perceptions, by other people's suggestions and opinions, of which there will always be many? And there are two types of people out there. There are successful people who are very generous with it and would never perceive you any other way than the way they want you to be for your own success. And there are people that are not so generous with it because it's part of their own security to feel more successful than other people. They've got a hang up about it. And then they will give you opinions because you're a threat and you're competition. So never forget that people are coming from different angles. Just ignore all of it. Ignore all of it. And start again. Just get a blank piece of paper out and say, hey, forget perception. That's not even going to feature in this diagram. What is my dream destination? What do I have to do to get there? And let's just junk the rest of it, chuck it in the bin and start again. And it's never too late to do that. Never too late. Sometimes we wake up and think, wow, why did I get into this career? Why did I get into this life pattern that I'm in? Who caused that? And if we go way back, we can sometimes work it out and say, well, actually, I wasn't really part of that choice. It was foisted onto me. So there you go, Stefan. You can do it. You can do it. Just forget about all that. It doesn't matter who you feel you are, and whether you're pursuing your worthy ideal is what really matters. It doesn't matter what happens.
Just keep reminding yourself of it because that's a good way to get yourself back on track. Is to be like, oh, wait, I know this story already.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely, Stefan. Great. Thanks for that contribution. Great to hear that. And Mandy has a hand up next.
Hi, Adrian.
Hi.
Yeah, I love what you were just saying, Stefan. That was so true. And what was coming up for me with this, and I don't know if this was your inspiration for today's story, but if you want to see anybody who's had the chance where their parents have had to go against their parents or the siblings, they don't want to upset people, they don't want to do the wrong thing, they've got to do the right thing by society, then you haven't got to look too far than this interview that's doing the rounds at the moment between Harry and Meghan. We saw it all last night, you saw it the day before. And I just, when I saw it, I mean, I'm just in awe of her, really. I think that what she is doing is she's standing up to the whole institution. And I am a royalist. I do like, I like the Queen. I love that. But I can see what she's saying is true. But what her and Harry see is that they have a choice. This is where they should be. This is what they're supposed to conform to. They're not supposed to say, no, we don't want to do that. This is the way you're supposed to do it. And they're turning around and saying, no, because we have a right to live our own lives as well, which is what you're saying and what we're saying. If we're held back by our parents or something because their limiting belief says your child should never go and do that, then you're never going to go and do it because your parents' limiting belief is now stopping you. And you mustn't, you can't do that because it is your life and it's their life. And to stand up and say, no, we're taking our life back, I think is really testament to what you're saying here. The other thing I would say is that why do people put other people second? It's because it's easier to do. It's the easier way to, it's the easy way in life, isn't it? You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to go to that stress of going through all that. You're not the confidence, and with them it will be duty and tradition. What I wanted to say is that we are all adults. We're all adults. It is harder if you're married to go your own way, because if you're married, then you need to take the other person into account as well. So you might have to ask seek their viewpoint and do it together, as they have as well. But if you're single, the world is your oyster. It's your money, your effort, it's your gain, it's your loss, but it's your right to have a go. Yeah. And not theirs. We have enough limiting beliefs of our own. We don't need to take other people's on. And there was one thing that I saw mirrored in Greece a couple of years back. It was on the side of one of these bungee jumps, but I've always remembered it. And it basically says, one life, live it. And it's true. You have one life. Go and live it the way you want to live it. Yeah, great topic, Adrian. Thank you.
Great sentiments, Mandy. It actually wasn't my inspiration, funnily enough, but it's probably, we couldn't have had a better example in this week than that. My inspiration actually, funnily enough, came from having discussions with friends about how they got into their careers and realizing that a lot of people were just punted off on autopilot onto a track they don't actually enjoy much, but it was the right thing to do. Or other people suggested it was the right thing to do. It's fascinating how many of us embark on the journey that way, almost just by default. It's not a choice. We just fall into it. So, but great, that's a great example, Mandy. And you know what? I mean, it definitely unconscious bias. We grow up in a community, we look at the people around us and we sort of fit into what's going on around us, unless we're very unusual. And there are unusual people around who don't do that. But unless we're very unusual, yeah, we fit in and we're inspired by and conditioned by what we see, what people are wearing, what they're doing, the jobs they're doing in our little community, whether it's a big town, a small village, wherever it is. And the easy way, yeah, you're right. It is the easy way not to rock the boat. So I think the message from that, Mandy, what you're really telling us is get uncomfortable because you have to be a bit uncomfortable to make this change. It's not going to be without its challenges. Thanks very much, Mandy. That was very interesting. Gail has her hand up. So the family, we're hearing a lot from the family today, which is great. The powerhouses.
Hi, everyone. Stefan, for everything that you are going through right now and all the work that you are doing, just keep on doing it. You will get to where you want. That's one thing. The other thing, Adrian, and I'm very proud of you too, by the way, Stefan. I heard a saying recently, and it was, if you want to clean the house, you have to first be able to see the dirt. And it was a quote from Louise Hay from Hay House. And it really struck me and it stayed with me. And I think, if we want to change ourselves and better ourselves, we have to take a good, long, honest look at ourselves and get rid of the dirt that we don't need, and then work on the other things. And thank you for a great topic today. I'm done. Thank you.
Gail, that's brilliant. I mean, I love that. Clean the house, first see the dirt. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is we've got to develop consciousness first so we can move forward with that consciousness to make the required changes. Because if we stay unconscious and we're not even aware of the impact these things are having, of course, it's hard to make the right changes or to realize that we're going down the wrong track. So I love that, Gail. That's a great saying. Great saying. And it really does speak of consciousness, which is very important in this. So thank you for that, Gail. Thanks a lot. Sonia has a hand up. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Adrian. This is such a great topic, and it's something that I'm just having a big aha moment with, so going to share. You all know that I moved back here to be near family about 8 months ago. And man, has it really opened my eyes to these kinds of family pressures and expectations. Living 8 hours away, I was free from all this for the past decade. So now that I'm back, I can clearly see how these expectations are still affecting me to this day. At 51, this is so not acceptable. But even though the move hasn't been fabulous, I'm glad that I did move back because it's given me this clarity. Now, you all have gotten to know me. I am not shy to speak my mind. I am not unintelligent. Yet you put me in a room with another family member and I cannot voice my needs confidently. My opinions or my skills are made fun of because it's not as good as another family member, no one in particular, just anybody else in the family. I'm the pretty one, everybody else is the smart one. And I've realized now that my desire for acceptance from that family is still so strong. And that clarity has made me realize that I cannot change their perception of me, no matter how hard I try, no matter how many skills I try to show them. And I may not ever be or feel the level of acceptance that I desire from them, but I can choose not to put a lot of weight on their opinions. And like Gail, I saw a quote recently that resonates with me, and mine was, and so she decided to live the life that she wanted anyway. And that's really helped me change my perspective on this topic. And I'm currently painting this on my bedroom wall and concentrating on the painting of the words and putting my energy into them. I think for me is really important to help secure this change in me because I'm creating it. And I want to see that every day. I want to wake up and see it first thing in the morning and say it to myself, and the last thing I see at night. And it's just been so eye-opening seeing how this issue has affected my decisions, my moves around the country, my careers. I usually live quite far away from my family, and now I know why. So I just decided that I'm not going to do this anymore. I absolutely refuse to be Sonia at 61, looking back and seeing that this still affects me. And so you're so right, Adrian. We can choose to make this change, but you have to see it first, and you have to make that decision to do so. So I'm hoping that at 61, this decision is the last one I have to make to clear out this issue for me. And I hope, Stefan, you are close to making whatever decision you need to make for you, so that you don't have to constantly compare yourself to your sister. But yeah, I think your family is who you choose to be. Those can be my blood relatives, but this is my family. And no matter where I live, you guys are still going to be here. You're still going to support me. You've given me more support while I was sick than my family did. And everybody from this group always reaches out, tells me that I can do this, that I'm capable. And even though I know that, it's so nice and it's so needed that I get that from an external source. That validation is still required, even though I believe it myself. It's really nice to get that validation from people that I respect and admire as well and believe the same in. So great topic, Adrian. I'm sorry I've chatted an awful lot. I'll shut up now. But really valid topic. Thank you so much.
Sonia, you are such a powerful force, and we can sit here and listen to you, and it pushes you out of your chair because you've lived it. You've lived through difficult situations and an upbringing, and you can see things this way. You can still see things this way and be going for it, which is fantastically inspiring. And as you say, yeah, we do carry this desire for acceptance. We really do. We all need to be loved. But as you said quite rightly, we can't change their perceptions, but we can change ours. And then the funny thing is that if we succeed in something after that, then we'll get the recognition. That's the irony of all this. We don't get it while we're not trying, but the moment we try and we actually pull it off, people are going to stand back and say, what? How did they do that? What? I didn't believe they could do it. And you'll get that recognition, which is just the great thing about all this. So thank you, Sonia. That was a very powerful summary of the whole situation. I love that. I love that. Jamie, next up.
Hi, everybody. Sonia, couldn't agree more. I brought this up a long time ago with issues that I've had with the one person I kept trying to please and get approval from was my dad. And I never heard a word from him if I was doing something even remotely to what he agreed with. But when I went off the rails, in his opinion, I heard plenty. And he still, at this point in my life, still tries to influence some of that with some decision-making I may review with him. And you're never, ever, ever, ever going to change their perception of you. It's going to be at one level or another, but it's never going to change to the point where you're going to be satisfied that you're actually in your brain getting their approval, because it's never going to be what you want it to be. This is what I found out. I said, when I say you, I don't mean specifically you. Maybe you'll get to that point. I hope you do. But I found that it's in you, right? What you just said, and we've been talking about today, we've talked about in the past, it's the change in you on how you go and get up every morning and why you do the things that you do. And they all should be for you, right? Mostly for you. And because even if they're for you, they might also be for a family member, a child, a spouse, but you're starting out to do it for you. And the only approval you need is yours. And everybody else, if they give you a pat on the back and say, way to go, great, but that's not why you want to get up in the morning. And I keep saying you, I don't mean specifically you, us. And I still struggle with it because I'll get to his opinion and I'll start to feel myself real backpedal and start to change and start to second guess. And I have to do a lot of inward thinking to snap out of that. And it's getting better every day. So I would just tell you, hang in there. I laughed so hard when you said you moved back close to your family, and you know why you weren't living close to them for a while anyway. I get it. My family's on the other side of the coast. So, but I still, the reverberation and the repercussions and the tremors are still here, but I'm better at handling those. So I'll tell you, you're on the right track. Keep it up. We're all here for you, and it's doable. I can tell you that it's doable. It's a long road, but it's doable. Thanks.
That's bang on right, Jamie. I mean, again, changing you, not changing people's perception. You could be waiting a long time for that to change. So I agree again, and exactly what Sonia said, and why you get up in the morning, your motivation, that is power, that is passion, and that changes things. You can't live somebody else's passion. It just doesn't work very well. Well, certainly doesn't for me. I just can't feel the strength of that dream or that passion if somebody else gave it to me. It just doesn't connect the same way for me anyway. So thanks, Jamie. That was a great.
I can just say one more thing. It's
sure.
You're putting energy in the wrong direction, and that energy is so valuable, and you can use that to your best efforts and for your successes if you spin it around. I just truly believe that.
I agree, Jamie. I absolutely agree with that. Thanks very much. Cyril, you have your hand. Great to hear you.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you. It's a really interesting topic today. Thank you. What I would say is that I think in many respects I've been quite lucky because my family have never had that negative attitude, never. But then again, on the other hand, my family have suffered from low self-esteem. So anything you are prepared to get on with, they have no problem with. If anything, that low self-esteem within me was my biggest block, and took me a long time to work my way out of it and educate myself out of it through meditation, affirmations, and addressing my inner thinking. And that was the only way I got through that, and realizing that I was holding myself back. Also, through part of that, I realized that there comes a point as we as adults have to come to terms with the fact that we often have to become our own parents, because and we need to be our own encouragement, because our parents have had their lives, and they had their childhood, and they were their lives, their thinking, their family have also held them back, and what they're doing is just passing on what they've been told, and how their thinking handles life and their perception of life. So there comes a point where we as adults need to take control of ourselves and be our own parent. And that's come up in a few things I've studied over the years, and has been really helpful. And not to rely on outside people, particularly our own family sometimes, because they may not have the wherewithal to be able to help you in the first place. I know I've really followed my passions, and I don't know that I would completely agree with that. If you can think it, you can do it, because life has told me it's far more complicated than that. But what I have realized is that we have to think about things in a far more adult and a deeper way, deep conscious thought about what we do to move forward in it, because we often compete with a lot of intelligent people, and if we don't think deeply about what we're doing and how to handle it, then we are not putting ourselves at best advantage. I know when I was training to be a dancer, the one of the things I used to almost pray for was that for help, for somebody to help me, for somebody to tell me what I should be doing in the way I should be doing it, and that never came through at all, for whatever reason. As an adult, and that happened to me as a young man, and a naive young man. As an adult now, I know that I have to find those things I need, because the likelihood is I may not have somebody to help me to find them easily. There have been times later on when my background, particularly in things like dance, then enabled me to take up opportunities that if I hadn't had my training, I wouldn't have been able to do. So although as a young adult, dance, I was not particularly successful in dance, but as a mature adult, I then saw opportunities that my skills and abilities were more able to utilize, and also the fact that my thinking, my finding deep thoughts and about understanding what I need to do internally to make those things happen had much greater consequences, because I knew then what I should be doing in terms of how to handle it. So yeah, perception is one part of that process, and perception can be a greater part of that process, but for me it's far more complicated, and deep thought is required to be successful. So yeah, and basically if you yeah, I think that's really what I've got to say. And really low self-esteem is the major problem we have in ourselves, and not being able to encourage and prop ourselves up is also tends to be the major block, because I'm lucky that I didn't have those negative voices coming at me apart from my own. So and they all count, whether they're external or internal. So self-love is a major thing. Thank you.
Cyril, that was just great. I think there's a whole chain of beautiful thoughts there and very deep thinking. I think you should definitely, that's the first chapter you've just written, by the way. You've got to publish this, because that was a very interesting thought process, starting from the low self-esteem, the need to re-educate ourselves. Absolutely. It's got to come from inside us. We've got to wish to make change and actually believe in making change. Becoming our own parent, that was fascinating. Encouraging ourselves, because parents are passing on their own thinking and their own upbringing. Absolutely what I was saying, really. There had to be, remember, the first Einstein in the family. Someone had to be the first Einstein. Maybe there'd never been anyone like that in that family. Probably never, and never will be. But someone had to change. Someone had to cast off previous thinking, go in their own direction. And deep thought, developing. What I'm getting from that, Cyril, is developing your own self-sufficiency as well, and being more self-sufficient in terms of your own resources is part of the baggage we've got to develop for ourselves to carry with us, so we can draw on it and adapt. I know you said you're not so sure about if you think you can. For me, if you think you can and you have a go, then something's going to happen. What we've all learned already in this 8 or 9 months, it isn't always exactly what we thought was going to happen, but we adapt our dream and our vision as we go. And we're all now doing perhaps slightly different e-commerce or other things than we expected when we signed up for a certain course. But have a go, think that you can and have a go. And I think things happen. Things are going to come up. Unexpected things may be, but something is going to change. I really believe that. But Cyril, that was very thought-provoking. I wish you'd write that. I'd hope you're going to write a book, because I think you've got a lot to say. Thank you very much. Now, we did have another hand up, I think it was Nicola, but she may have dropped off. I think she may have gone. Have we lost her? Hang on. I can't see Nicola. I think she might have dropped out. So no more questions at this point. No more thoughts. Unless anyone wanted to pile in with any afterthoughts on what we've just heard. I think I'll have to watch these contributions again. There were some very, very interesting thoughts before. John, how are you?
I'm inspired. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, everyone who shared today. And look, this is I don't know. It's been a bit of an emotional week for me already, and I'm really grateful to be here in this group. I know I'm saying that as the purveyor of this entire platform, but I get as much out of this as anybody. And thank you, Adrian, for being such a damn scholar. My goodness, this guy's brilliant, everyone. Adrian Garner. Woo! Like, really getting to it, man. More important than what we do is who's doing it. And that was the question you brought up today from a different angle, right? But it's the same damn question. Who am I and what am I doing? That is my question of the week. And what am I not doing? Because insert reasons, right? I'd rather get results, not reasons. Thank you, brother. I'm going back on mute.
John, fantastic. Thank you so much. The only reason we can talk about any of these things is that we've all lived them. I think there are very few of us that haven't. So we can speak with real conviction because we know what it is that's happened to us, the forks we've gone down on the wrong road, the forks we've been pushed down on the wrong road, maybe to spend a couple of decades on the wrong road, unfortunately, before we finally woke up and said, whoa, hang on, why did I go down the left fork rather than the right fork? So thanks very much, John. It's never too late to retrack, change roads, and change who's doing it. As John has just said, we can change.
Sorry, you know what? Sonia says I'm looking raw today, so hold on. I'm wearing the wrong color shirt. I've got a dark navy blue, and hold on.
There you go, John.
Yeah. There he is. Oh, I recognize that guy now. Okay, very good.
I did chameleon. The Maserati logo, particularly when you leaned into the camera at one point. I thought that was a deliberate promotion. Are we getting paid by Maserati today?
You are not, sir.
That was great. I really loved listening to everybody. I really did. I think I'm going to go back and listen to these comments because the thoughts from Cyril, Sonia, and so many others were very compelling. And I just hope we can be inspired by each other, because some of us are already dipping our toe in the water and daring to try and daring to stand out. Then, there's no reason why the rest of us can't do that. None at all. I really believe in that. Quick bit of housekeeping. Ivier, the wonderful Ivier, speaking on her Corporate Curio session with great corporate stories about management, people, relationships, and situations at 5 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, 10 p.m. UK. Wayne, in his new weekday slot, doing Metaphors for Success, 9 p.m. Eastern Time US, 2 a.m. in the morning for the Stalwarts UK time. But really, thanks for participating in this today. And let's sign off for the day. But I do want you all to know how valued you are and how valuable you are and how valuable you can be in whatever field you choose to throw yourself into. If someone wants to go out there and become a triathlete tomorrow, great. If that's your thing, go for it. It doesn't matter what comes out of this group. It may not even be business. Some of us may decide we have other passions. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be happy with the rest of the things you've got and say, that is the thing I must do, that I must have above all others. And if I had it, I would feel as if I'd landed on the moon and hit the jackpot. If that's what it is, it doesn't matter that it's not e-commerce. It really doesn't. So everyone's valued for their own thing in their own way, and forget about perception. Just do your thing. Thank you, everybody. I love that. I love listening to you. Thank you so much for joining and contributing. We'll see everyone later on Ivier's session, hopefully. Bye for today.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Adrian.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
Adrian.
you. Goodbye.
Hey, Adrian.
Bye. Bye. Bye.